All right, we'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First item of business is public comment. Procedures on public comment.
There's no public.
I don't think we have any public comment tonight. So we'll move on to our board business and we'll adopt our final 23-24 district levy. Okay. So, now I'm logged out. There's all the irony for you. Doesn't matter for this right now. So I put paper copies in front of you. So I think probably the order to look at them in is the one spreadsheet that has all the years, the historical stuff. Maybe start there. That's kind of where we left off at last meeting. And then we can go into the details. So if you remember, I gave you a similar looking document at the last meeting. This one is updated. So there's a little off to the right there, there's one that says base. So what that means is when I calculate the revenue limit formula on the revenue limit worksheet provided by the DPI. So as time goes on here, the DPI keeps tightening down there. It's like they keep adding more. Okay, this number is set. This number is set. This, so there's less projecting and more just like, you get to the end here and there's only about two numbers you need to plug in and that's where it is. So what that base represents is if I just plug in and follow the revenue limit worksheet, that would be like the base amount of levy that we would do without doing anything additional or without under levying at all. Just that would be levying to our full authority, what they call that. So again, the total property value is $393 million. That was a pretty significant increase. The local tax levy would be $2,695,554, and that would result in a mill rate of 6.86. So again, if you look back at last year, the mill rate was 8.24, which is more than a point drop from what it had been the year before. If you look over to the right where it says August 1st estimate, that was our before our annual meeting, our preliminary budget, I'd projected 8.48. So obviously the big change was the change in the property value, and then also our levy is smaller due to us getting more state aid than was initially projected with what we had put in there. So if you guys recall that conversation. So the question that I shared with the board last time to kind of wrestle with was whether we wanted to over levy a bit in order to keep our mill rate from dropping so far. I mean, dropping from 8.24 to 6.86 is pretty significant. Ultimately the most important thing that impacts a person's tax bill and our district taxes is the levy number. So if we look at option 2 there, that's if we over levy a small amount, $56,199, and that brings us to $2,751,753 local tax levy. And that, I manipulated that over levy number to get us to an even 7.0 mill rate. And why do that? I did, just kind of doing some analysis and talking to people and consulted with our people at Baird that we work with, and just, there's some maybe value in keeping it at 7. Simply for the optics of it, and honestly, that if we in a year or two, we need to raise it goes up again. It feels like 7 is different than 6.86. Just if it needs to go back up again a little bit, or let's say we need to go to referendum in the future. So that's the 7.0 is still, if you look through the history, by far, basically, our historical lowest mill rate we've ever had. If you look back in 2006, we had a low mill rate, but even then it wasn't that low. But you can see historically how it's been quite a bit higher. So only been in the last 6-7 years that we've been in the single digits. So any questions so far? So I know your question might be, okay, how do you over levy? How do you get to do that? So I'll get to that in a minute. And then The other thing that I'll come back to, but I want to point out is, so you see that number 92,917. So what that number is, that's the difference in the option to levy for this year going back to compared to what it was last year. So that's how much the mill rate, or sorry, that's how much the total tax levy across the whole district would increase, is $92,917.
Sorry, Chris, that was the 56,199.
So 56,199 is the amount of dollars that I'm proposing that we over levy slightly in
the
fund
686 to the 7.
Yep, to move us up. And that would be in Fund 39, which is our referendum debt fund. We are allowed to over levy that. Obviously we don't want to go crazy over levying it and burden our taxpayers, but that is something that we can do to keep that mill rate more flat or more steady.
And then the 92 is what then?
So then the 92,000 represents the difference of last year's total levy to this year's total levy. So it's the increase. How many dollars total increase?
So then with that option too. So the public is going to see that they're going to be paying more taxes.
Yep.
To the tune of their share of 92,000.
Yep.
But the mill rate will be lower.
Mill rate's going to drop a lot from last year. And also, that 92,000 there's two things to know about that. Number one is last year we had zero increase to our total levy, right? In fact, we went down. So we had 2 years in a row, no increase, or we've had 2 years of no increase. And then the other thing is, if you notice down below where it says school levy tax credit. So what the school levy tax credit is this is something that the state legislature put a fair amount of money into this year. So that's when you see your tax bill, you will see, you'll see the county and the village or whatever your municipality is, and you'll see the school district, and you'll see the technical college and what they each levy. And then you'll see your total, and then you'll see a reduction. You'll see a tax levy credit, and it reduces your total tax bill. And so the amount, the total school levy tax credit for Clear Lake is estimated to be $129,000. So that's put into the formula that decreases the dollar figure across your share. Again, each taxpayer's share of that $129,000. So
are we roughly 30,000 to the good then?
So to my point is, we're increasing the levy $93,000 over 2 years, because we didn't increase it at all last year, and it's going to get more than eaten up by the levy tax credit. So being conscious of not burdening taxpayers more than we should, I think that levy tax credit is something to consider. So that's, I guess, the justification for why I'm suggesting that we over levy that a little bit there and keep it at 7.0. So that's kind of the overview. I can explain in the revenue limit worksheet about the over levy and why, just show you where we're allowed to do that. But first, are there other questions or things to kind of review again from what I just said? Does that kind of make sense? School finance in Wisconsin is not simple.
No.
Not simple at all.
So, Chris, it sounds like you want to do a levy increase to 7.
That's what I'm proposing.
My question for you is why?
Again, I would say
I'm a farmer over by Covernix, and I've been paying taxes, and I graduated from Clear Lake in 1983, and I'm really frugal with my money. You tell me why I should pay more in taxes.
I'm smiling because in 1983, I know that's not right, Greg.
I don't know what year you graduated. I'm not referring to myself.
No, okay.
But it's
Yep.
one of our constituents that's very frugal.
Yeah.
And
and that's what I've had in mind while I'm looking at this. So I think that it's a very precipitous drop to go from 8.24 to 6.88. It's a big drop in the mill rate. And I think that, next year it's likely that our total levy may go up, somewhat after being flat for a year, and, could be flat, pretty flat this year. I do think that it's it can help smooth that peaks and valley, I believe. You know, and we're paying down debt early with that $56,000. That goes into our Fund 39, and it allows us to pay down some debt early. And again, I think this is a good year to do it because the school levy tax credit had a lot of money pumped into it, and so you know, that increase is going to get mitigated by that school levy tax credit. So yeah, that is exactly the question I've been wrestling with: is how does John Q. Public taxpayer understand? You know, why are we doing this? Yeah.
So does the district need money? Do we need the $92,000 or the $56,000?
Again, the $56,000 will help prepay our loan down faster. So
why not go to like 7.25 and get it closer to that 129,000?
Good question. I guess just trying to be conservative and not tax more. Just with Greg's question in mind, why as a taxpayer might say, well, you didn't have to tax that much. Why did you? So I guess I feel like it's kind of finding that happy medium. I guess.
Sure.
You know, good question.
Because my question is, or I guess my thought is, whoa, we got the opportunity to put out a tax levy of 6.86. We've got an opportunity to give our public a gift, maybe in return for the gift they gave us when we passed that levy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know that all of a sudden it dips down, or referendum, but it dips down to 6. I don't know. That's what my gut is telling me, I guess. So I just want to make sure or flush out any things that I don't see, or reasons why we should ask for more than we need.
Yeah.
Because it sounds to me that's what we're doing, right?
We're asking for $56,000 more. Than we have to. Keep in mind, 2 years ago we asked for 600, or what was it, 400, 600,000 more, as we over levied 600,000 more. Now that was mitigated by the refinance that we did, so that was helped with that. But that's what allowed us to keep things smooth with our.
I think that there was wasn't there a reason why we did that? Though?
Oh yeah, when we then passed our referendum for the additional 800,000, I think the answer to the taxpayer as well is, hey, we passed a $800,000 a year referendum 2 years ago, and your taxes did not go up 1 cent. In fact, they went down $5,000 last year. So I think
no, they didn't though, Chris. They went up.
No, they went down last year. From 22 to 21, they went down $5,000. So it was 2.663 in 21, and then last year was 2.658.
Yep, they did go down.
So that's the other thing is, we passed that big referendum, and our levy actually went down. So that's a big, so again, I think that 56,000 or that increase, I kind of look at that as also, last year we had nothing, and I'm also trying to guard against, we have nothing, and then next year or the year after, boom, we get this bigger jump, I guess. So
that's what people are going to see more of, I have a feeling.
Is the big jump if we have to go from 686 up to 7.5 or 775?
Or 7.25 looks pretty big versus 7 to 7.25, I feel. So.
Well, the calls I've gotten, wasn't last year, it was the year prior. My taxes went up, but the mill rate went down.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
Yeah.
And so having to explain that, and I don't know if anyone else got those calls, but I got a lot of them actually.
Yeah, send those to me too. And a lot of those are
Josh was here, I think, at that time, so I actually had him put together an answer for us.
And a lot of those depends on your town that you live in, because
who got valued higher.
Yeah, if your valuation went up more or less than the other, and also, it's not an even percentage of the district tax burden, that goes out to, obviously Vance Creek has a tiny little percent, whereas, the village and the town of Clear Lake are 100% in the district. Black Fork is third as far as percentage of the district's budget. So, and then however their property values changed year to year, definitely plays a part.
Does this have any effect on the formula?
No.
So there's no benefit from
the formula affects this,
But
We
I
can-
mean, but I'm talking about next year's formula. I mean,
No, not this. This won't hamstring us for next year. It won't raise anything there, because this 56,000 is outside of the revenue, the revenue limit cap, so to speak, because it relates to the referendum fund. So.
What is our loan at? What's our balance on our loan?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, we're roughly halfway through. It's a 20-year bond.
and our interest rates are pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
refinanced, we're very good.
Yeah, when we refinanced 2 years ago, that was huge. I think it saved us about $400,000 over the life of the
Mhm.
of the bonds. Yep.
A good year of payments.
So if we left this money in the community's pockets at 7%, then it would probably be a wiser move for the community.
That's 7. What do you mean by that?
If we didn't levy it and it
Mhm.
stayed in everybody's savings accounts or against their credit cards, it would earn more too.
Mhm.
I don't know, Chris. I don't think that we should levy more than we need, especially how giving our community has been. Unless you can convince me that it's kind of unless you can convince me otherwise, I guess. And I'm only one vote at the table, I'm gonna say that, but I think that we do have to take care of our constituents, our taxpayers. We've had money piling on top of us here the last couple of years, and I mean, it's pretty easy just to take a little bit more, but I don't see a need for it. And if there's not a need, I guess I can't support it. Just for the number,
Just to make
I mean,
it
I think
better.
it'd be a good thing to show a 6.86. The neighborhoods would see that, and maybe people would be more apt to come here. I don't know what Amory's levy is, but
Yeah, I don't. I don't know that it's a great. I don't know that people. To discuss it, or I don't know the impact of it from a marketing standpoint. I'm not sure.
They definitely look at property taxes.
Right.
Overall.
And I know that again, comparing, let's say, our neighbors to the west, I know we're in a good place there due to referendums and stuff like that. Comparably, I know we're in a good place there.
Mhm.
So. Again, the rationale behind it is just to, it's a relatively, so the 56,000 is, you can figure out what percent of the 2.7 million that is, and the 2.7 million is our local levy, which is, the bigger, a small part of the whole overall formula, which from the state we're getting. From the state, 5.297 from the state. So. Yeah, it's
When did we
it's
pass
the board's
the
decision.
referendum?
2014, 13, 14.
Talking
No.
the recent one,
The
spring,
recent one.
spring of 22.
Spring of 22.
Yep. Yep. Let's see.
Yeah, it's you guys' decision. We can just vote on it and go from there.
Chris, if you wanted to log into WISFIP, you could see what our loan balances are for those.
Okay.
So that 56,000 would go to help pay down debt then?
Yeah. Yeah, that 56,000 represents, I guess it's about 2% of our levy, our local levy.
So since the levy then, or since we did the referendum, the most recent one, if we took the 9.47, even if we go to 7, we've dropped almost 2.5%. And if we go to 2.8, or if we go to 6.86, we drop 2.61%. So we still have dropped significantly since our teacher referendum, or our 600 referendum.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the mill rate?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Our overall increase from last year is a 3% increase. Let me just figure the difference here.
Well, how much interest?
Yeah. To me, that's gotta be more of
Yeah, so we're talking, if we do the base, it's like a 1% increase in our total levy, and if we did the option 2, would be a 3% total increase in our levy. That's rough numbers. I mean, that's just scratching it out here at the table. So,
Do we know what our interest rate is on that loan?
I think they're all different. I don't know that there's a one rate.
yeah, there's multiple bonds in the different, in the different funds. So,
But they gotta be 2-3%, right?
They're pretty low. Do you want me to go get my debt schedule?
No, don't worry about it. If we just conservatively use 3%, that'd have a $1,700 effect on interest per year if we paid off it or
Mhm.
paid that off early for
Yeah.
whatever the duration is of the.
and honestly, I'd say it's more about keeping the mill rate more leveled out and more consistent is honestly I'd say the bigger reason than paying the debt down early. I think paying the debt early, and that amount is a fairly small
Don't
amount.
call it.
So I'd say the rationale is more keeping
Keeping it.
that mill rate more flat, I guess, is more the goal, what I was trying to accomplish there, I guess. So we are getting a significantly bigger chunk from the state compared, if you look at the August 1st estimate, we were looking at a $2 million, back at the annual meeting, we were looking at a $2,876,000 levy, which was actually an increase of the levy from last year. That would have been a pretty hefty, we're talking 220,000 more. So that was the other part, looking at compared to what we projected, it's significantly less from that. So I guess, that was my rationale for saying, I think this
State
is.
budget's set for another year? I mean,
It is.
these numbers are good for 2 years now?
Well, not these numbers, but I mean, we'll get an additional $325 per kid
Next
next
year.
year.
Mhm.
Yeah. We have our declining enrollment, so
Right.
that's eating up some of that increase.
Right.
But, so I guess my thought was it was kind of a happy medium solution as far as, keeping that mill rate kind of flat. Considering we've had no increase, didn't have any increase at all last year, actually had a reduction last year. I felt like that was a middle of the road approach to take, so that was my thought process.
I think it's don't take offense to it, Chris.
No, I don't at all.
I think it's a conservative option too. I think to go forward, we want to adopt one. So I'll just simply entertain a motion, and then we'll move on. Unless anybody's got anything else they want to talk about.
Come on. Going once.
Oh, you want to talk more?
I'm entertaining a motion.
Oh.
It doesn't matter if you guys want to make the motion for option 1 or the base, but it doesn't matter. Unless you guys want me to poll the board first to see what we want to do. What do you want to do, Christy?
Well, I would make a motion, but I don't know that it would pass. and we have a good chance of a stalemate tonight.
Yeah, we do. But that's okay. We'll fumble through
Well-
it. Because I don't,
I move to adopt the base as our 2023-24 district levy.
do I hear a second? See, that's,
Second that.
all right, so the motion's been made to adopt the base as our levy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Motion passes. See, and I didn't even have to vote.
Okay, so we're doing the 2.695 with the
Levy at
6.86 mill rate, right? Correct?
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope that's what you voted for.
Yep.
Yep.
I just think while we can, and just,
I think that it puts a card in our hand, so our district, later on, if we need money, we can point back to this and say, guys, we didn't take anything more than we needed.
Mhm.
I think we have families in more need than we are.
at the moment.
And as we're talking, I'm thinking about how, impacting our budget adoption tonight. But it really, the only thing that changes is the Fund 39 in and out.
Mhm.
So we can just, that's easy to account for. So it doesn't impact Fund 10 budget, doesn't impact Fund 27 budget, anything except Fund 39 budget. And if we need to, I could look into the rules of that if we'd need to come back and readopt that at another time, or we just modify it tonight.
Just say the motion with this new.
Yeah,
With that change.
Yeah, with that change, I think that's not a problem at all, so. Okay, on the revenue limit worksheet, if you're interested in that, just when I say that we have the option to over levy, so if you go to the second page of that thing, so the front page is just all about student numbers and how we arrive at FTE. It's about we got a bigger, we got a declining enrollment exemption, which was bigger than we expected because our declining enrollment was bigger than expected, and it's got the property values on there front. You go to the second page, and again, we can talk about this for a full day, but you go down to the bottom. So if we go to line 13 and 14, so that's the amount of allowable limited revenue that we're allowed to levy, the $2,173,756. Okay, and then outside, so within that, under 14, A is Fund 10. B is non-referendum debt, so we're obligated to, we need to levy that. And then number 15 down below, that stuff is outside of the revenue limit authority. So there's a couple of things that you can levy outside of the revenue limit authority, and one of them is your referendum debt. Okay, so that number I have in there is 548. That's the 56,000 over levy. So if I reduced it back down to the minimum payment that we need, it's like 480, 490 something. And then the community services is $30,000. That community ed levy goes outside of the formula as well, basically. So, and that 30,000 has been the same for many, many years. So when I say over levying, it's that line 15A is the spot where we're allowed to do that, and that's where we did that 3 years ago. So. And then if you look up, if you want to just see up a little bit higher, line 11 and 12. So line 11 is that's our total revenue limit with all exemptions. So it's $7,471,000, and then the number right below it, the $5,297,000. That's what we're getting from the state. Okay, so $5,297,000 out of the $7.4 million comes from the state. So that leaves over the $2.173 is what we get to levy, are allowed to levy locally. So just to understand some of that background of that. So. Okay. All right, so we got so we are,
We're good with the
that.
budget except Fund 39.
so the next part is that, the actual budget, that's the next item on there.
Yeah, so, to adopt the budget, what, line 39 is the one that we have to?
Fund 39, so it's really it's not a big deal. We can make an amendment to that. So, but the big picture with the overall budget, it's a balanced budget. So Lori and I, the last few weeks, made some adjustments to it based on understanding, well, first of all, knowing what our revenue more clearly was going to be, so exactly what we're getting for Fund 10, what we're levying, and then and our other sources, and then also we went and adjusted just a few numbers that we know more specifically, like our sparsity aid and like our open enrollment payment and payment out and payment in, so we just budgeted those down more tightly. They were pretty close anyway, what we projected in August. So really those are the only real changes from when we talked about it in August. And again, from that revenue limit worksheet, we're getting more state money than we expected initially.
That's in line 40.
Yes.
Increase that line.
Yeah. So as far as Fund 10 goes, again, it's created as a balanced budget. I don't know if there's any questions on any of the specific funds. Fund 10 again that's the big one. That's the general fund. Fund 21 is our special project. That's our activity accounts. So that's money in and money out. That's got no impact on levies or state money. Fund 27 is special education. Again, that fund, we are not allowed to carry any kind of fund balance every year. And every year we make a significant transfer in from Fund 10 to make Fund 27 work, to make it balance out. So we do that at the end of the year in June. Fund 38 and 39. So what's unique about this, this is the DPI adoption formula. So they combine 38 and 39 together, which is all your debt service. So again, 38 is non-referendum debt service. That's part of our energy efficiency exemption that we did back in 2013. And then Fund 39 is the referendum that was passed in 2013. So,
what does the motion need to sound like then, Chris?
that's what I'm kind of working through in my head right now as I'm talking about this. I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. I think we'll figure that out. Any questions on the other funds? Fund 46 is that's our fund that we're allowed to use for construction purposes or facility purposes, I should say. Fund 50 food service. Community ed is 80. And then I have Fund 60 in a separate, because it doesn't automatically appear on the DPI formula, so I just have it as a separate spreadsheet like I did back in August. Fund 60 is a scholarship fund. Again, that's money in, money out from donations. So let's see. I can find. So obviously the difference is that, the difference in the amount for Fund 39 would be that $56,199. That was the amount that was that I had over levied built into here. So I mean, if we want to subtract that out, if anyone can do quicker math than me. So if we go to Fund 38 and 39,
It's 975, 264.
thank you.
So
That would be the revenue, 975,264.
Yes.
Okay.
But I would appreciate a recheck from someone.
Yeah.
Because I'm on Mackenzie there, not my.
That's what I've got too. So what we're saying is, so on line, under debt service fund 3839, line 171, revenue, instead of 1,031,463, the number would instead be $975,264.
okay.
And we did not change the expense in there anyway.
Shouldn't have to.
Yeah, we didn't. So that's the only thing that would change then with
Would be the revenue.
Yep, would be that
No, I don't think we
revenue.
did. We
Yeah,
didn't.
no, we didn't. So,
Well, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to put at the end of the motion and any ramifications that has in the budget.
yeah. It doesn't really have any ramifications significantly. It would just be, I think when we make the motion, we approve the budget with the notation that debt service fund revenue should read $975,264.
All right, I'll entertain that motion.
I move to approve the final 23-24 budget with the adjustment to line 171, the total revenues and other financing under Fund 39 to be $975,264.
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the budget with the changes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Lori and Chris, for all the work on that.
Yeah.
By the way. The next item of business are board policy updates and approval. We've got a number of first readings. I will cruise through them.
Yeah. So I apologize for how many there are, but I met with our representative from Neola, and there were 35 board policy updates or revisions. So I just thought, we're getting together. Why not get one? We got this bonus meeting in. Let's try to get one first reading in on a bunch of these. So one of the biggest things to take note of is the letter C there, meetings.
Get rid of.
That replaces, if you go down to M, it rescinds 1, 2, 3, 4 different old policies. This puts them all into one called meetings, because there was one called regular board meetings, one called special board meetings, one for board meeting change, so it just is, and they did that on a couple of other ones too. They're trying to combine the policies down into a fewer number of them, which I do think is a good thing. So,
Okay.
you want me to? We can go through them one by one. I can just highlight real quick what is different about them. I think I can go pretty fast on this.
If you want to, Chris, go ahead.
So the one electoral process, the big difference in there is there was a new rule last year that, and which we did it already last year, but if an incumbent files notice of non-candidacy, that we need to put that on our website right away to say, hey, so and so's not running. As opposed to staying silent on it, and people aren't aware that, let's say Greg's up for election. People don't know Greg is not running until the last minute, and now, people are scrambling to say, oh, I would have run if I'd have known Greg,
Yeah.
so that's the main thing that's in there, and it just clarifies the timelines on that. So, so that's a reflection of the law. The conflict of interest stuff, I don't know I can't remember now what's different in there. That's just a lot of changing of his and her to they and them, and also it's meant to clarify that board members can serve as a volunteer coach or supervisor, and now there's a law too. They can be a bus driver. They can be a volunteer bus driver. So it's just clarifying what a board member can or can't do.
You're saying they can be a volunteer?
Volunteer,
So
but
they
can't be
still
paid.
can't get paid?
Yes, that's correct. Sound good?
You can drive the sports teams anytime you want, Greg.
Oh my gosh, but it's in our district and smaller districts than us, that's a hindering thing. If you got somebody that, people have had to make a
Bus
choice of
drivers
whether
were
to
short
work
on,
or
so-
whether to be on the board, and that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or it is a case where, again, maybe you got a board member who said, I got 2 kids on the team. I'll drive the bus. If you can't find a driver, I'll do it. And they were prohibited from doing it. Now they can do it. So.
Well, we first have to have the bus license.
Yeah. That's big.
Actually, I had heard
When are
that
we going
got a
for that,
lot
Greg?
easier again, Chris. Did you know that?
No, it hasn't gotten easier. To get a bus license?
I was talking to
don't
one of
think
the
so.
districts, person that does that, and they said, yeah, it just got all easier again.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's news to me, or Tom. So the next one, there, meetings. Again, it's just taking all the, change of meetings, special meetings, notice of meetings, and putting it all into one policy. The one part that the board could look at is if you go to the bottom of it, where it says virtual participation in meetings.
We don't have it checked, but you can.
Right, we don't have it checked about virtual participation, because I think it's been the practice to be in person. I don't know if we want to open that door to virtual. I got the feeling, that was my guess, not knowing, but just my prediction is they probably want to keep it in person always. And
Unless, though, we'd probably want to leave it open. Say one of us is on the road and there's something that we want to kind of
You
be
have
to call a
present
special
for.
meeting.
something.
emergency
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
My just thought is, if you have it checked, the practice is face to face. If we ever had to switch
If we
because
had
of
to.
pandemic type things,
Yeah.
we're already covered.
Yeah, well, and also it says, unless otherwise determined by the board president or due to an order unauthorized, I think you still have the authority as board president to say, as I'm reading this, unless otherwise determined by the board members are expected to attend meetings. Yeah. I can, like I say, we looked at 35 of them that day, so I can go back and I can dig into this a little bit more
Yeah.
before the next meeting and clarify. But I thought it still gave some flexibility, like in a case like that, an emergency where there was an ability for the board president to say this member can participate virtually. But obviously, I think I
So
get,
that we'd have a quorum if we needed to.
yeah, and I get the feeling from the board. You prefer to probably keep it in person unless
Yeah.
it's
Oh, I'd like to
extenuating
keep it in person.
circumstances. Yeah, I think.
But I
there's-
also got a lot of traveling coming up, but I'd still like to be at the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we do virtual, it does open up some other, I think, things we have to be aware of as far as,
Recording.
yeah, but, so that's,
Okay.
Yeah, where are you recording?
I was assuming, not assuming, but I was predicting, I should say, that the board would probably want to keep
Yeah.
things in person and not really open the door to that frivolously.
Yeah, no.
Next one's an interesting one.
Yeah. Incapacity of district administrator.
Does that mean that the president has to be the first to try mouth-to-mouth resuscitation?
Yeah, yes.
And then the vice president's next?
Get the machine.
What is the definition of incapacity in context of is it inability to do the job, not incapacity physically?
I think, yeah, physically, unable to perform the duties of
Of the
office,
job.
where due to accident or illness or something like that. not. So just the board president shall have the authority to take or delegate necessary administrative actions on behalf of the district. So, and likely in that situation, probably call an emergency meeting and discuss who to delegate to be interim or something like that.
Yeah.
Criminal history record check, and again, this is, we just did this one last spring. So I
Actually,
don't-
3 of them.
Yeah.
Are they for 3 different levels?
One is for teachers, one's for support staff, one's for administration. Yep.
Chris, if that happens, incapacitation,
Mhm.
do you have a folder somewhere that we can, that
Tells us what you do.
has some kind of kindness?
Take care
for
of
us?
this.
A lot of folders.
It's kind of, we're laughing now, but this happened to the
Yeah.
Foremost Farm Board.
Yeah.
Their CEO quit, and here they are with.
Yeah. No,
Run
it'd
the
be,
company.
I mean, it'd have to be a team effort. It'd be, Joy and
Call
Lori.
Lori back.
Joy and Lori, the other administrators, and, the board or board kind of piecing together, and then probably reaching out to, say, CISA 11 to say, we need some help, and having, or WASB or WASDA to say, we need some help here. And
Right.
we probably could, find an interim or something like that. Yeah, in all seriousness, that's.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen.
We don't need to really play that one out.
I'll go for not.
It's better left as a case study. Not the real life.
The part about criminal history and record check employee self-reporting, again, it kind of just, it clarified down below what motor vehicle infractions would need to be reported or not reported, like, simple parking tickets and simple traffic moving violations versus, like I said, it clarifies down there. That's the big change, I think, from what it was, what's crossed out above. And again, one is for administrators, one's for teachers, one's for support staff. Family medical leave absence, again, this is a new policy for us. We did not actually have a board policy for family medical leave. We
Which
follow
is-
the law.
which is interesting.
It is
It's been
interesting.
law.
I mean, it's the law that you have to follow, and certainly we've been following that law since whatever the 90s, whenever it was put into place. We just didn't have a board policy that supported it, so I think.
So then why do we
So
have?
did it go for each level then too? Because that's interesting that they would have one for administrators, one
Yeah.
for teachers, because the law is the law, and
Yeah.
regardless of the
Yeah,
level.
many of our policies are sort of a restatement of the law, saying
Okay.
our policy is that we follow state statutes, federal statutes. Again, there's 3 of them here because of its administration, teaching staff, support staff. So the FMLA Act is what it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but it was maybe a little odd that we did not have a policy.
So if we didn't have a policy, why are there corrections on it?
The corrections are Neola's corrections from their old policy. So they've always
had
one.
They've always had one.
But we didn't have one?
Right. We didn't
How did
have
we
one.
not have one if they gave us these policies to have?
I don't know. Good question.
And I see they're taking all the his's and hers out of here.
Yeah. I'm old enough to remember back when you were grammatically you were supposed to use they if it was, and then it went to you were supposed to say his or her, and now it's going back to they. So. So. Anyway, so they had a policy that they're updating those little things, but we did not have the policy at all. So it's a new policy for Clear Lake, not a new policy for Neola.
And not even really a new, it's a new policy, but not even a new
But a new
practice.
Not a
law.
new practice,
Yeah.
no. We've been, again, doing FMLA for 25, 30 years. So. The next district-sponsored trips, again, it's been a couple weeks since the change in here, the addition is down at the bottom. Trips not sponsored by the district. So it's saying that if it's a non-district sponsored trip, it's not, the staff member can't, like, let's say it's a Girl Scouts trip. The staff member, they can't solicit in the building without permission, and also, and with that, we would follow our normal approval procedures of, we don't send a flyer home with every kid, or, those kind for non-school activities.
Is that new?
This policy is not new to us.
But I mean, to not solicit. I mean, didn't the Boy Scout stuff used to come out when we were kids? And
we don't. So this is soliciting for a trip specifically. Is what this means. But we don't. Yeah, we don't have non-school things that we don't. People will call us all the time and say, "Can you send this home with every student?" No, we don't. We announce it, we put it on the bulletin board, we tell kids, hey, if you want to grab a flyer, grab one, but we don't send it home with every kid. Okay. So, except for things that are directly
applicable,
feeder programs to our youth wrestling, youth baseball. We do hand those out. Coaches come over and do it. The school doesn't personnel it, but because it directly relates and feeds one of our school programs. But yeah, the policy itself is not new to Clear Lake. Selection of instructional materials and equipment. Again, this is not a new policy for Clear Lake. We adopted this, or we updated it last year. What's new language in here is that it clearly defines the difference between instructional materials and instructional equipment, gives a clear definition to them. In the era that we are in, people are, making challenges to curricular things. So, people are challenging what we call extracurricular materials, library books. That's not part of the core curriculum. That is an extracurricular item. So a library book, which is not universal, not every kid reads it, or supplements like that. Those are things that are under our policy, and a person can make a challenge, like a
But it's
book
not
challenge.
an instructional material.
But the instructional materials are approved by the board. So when we say we're getting this math series, this is basically to say this has been adopted by the board. We're not going to have individuals saying, well, I don't want my student to use this math series. I want him to use this math series, or this reading series. I want him to use this reading series. It's basically clarifying what is the definition of an instructional material. Or I can't come in as a parent and say, I don't want my child to use microscopes. We've approved the use of microscopes, and so it's part of our regular curriculum. I can say I don't want my child to go in the planetarium. That's not part of the regular curriculum. That's a supplemental thing. I don't want my child to go. Now, there are parts of the regular curriculum that are opt-outable. If we talk about human growth and development, things like that, and that's in our policy too. There are certain things that they can opt out of that are regular curriculum. So some of the changes here are reflections of what's kind of going on in the legal world out there. Maybe not necessarily that we've experienced, but what's out there. So then that last part is rescinding those other policies. Again, there was a policy about regular meetings, a policy for special meetings, change of regular meetings, and notice of meetings, and now that's all been put into that one. So yeah, there's 1/3 of the policy updates. So
It all has to do with definitions.
yeah.
So we can approve these at the first the November meeting and start another 13.
Yeah, so I'll put them on for second reading for the November 13th, and then I'll plan to have another first reading and a new batch on there. So yeah, I figured at least we could get the jump on with one meeting. So sorry, ends up being a longer meeting than this one typically is, but I figured we had to do it one time or another. So
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is future agenda items. Anybody have anything that they want to talk about at one of our future meetings? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.